Hello everyone and welcome to the Hobby Guard. In today's video I want to talk about the most recently revealed model for the upcoming Warhammer 40,000 11th edition and talk a little bit about the differences in design philosophy between the old Warhammer, the classic Warhammer models and the newer ones. As you can see here, the newest Vanguard Veteran just got revealed in beautiful, amazing Blood Angels colors, which I'm all for. I'm a Blood Angels fanboy, as I've explained in the past. However, I want to talk a bit of criticism and about the backlash that this model has received. But I want to start by giving props to GW. I suppose I wanted to talk about this earlier with the reveal trailer and the reveal of the first miniature, but this going back, this abandoning, not entirely, but at least backtracking a little bit on their design philosophy regarding the Primaris Marines, where they try to make everything smoother, kind of more tactical, this tendency to reject the past, reject the old, and just try to make something new, something better, just reminds me of that. I guess now it's old, but for me it's still new. The newest Robocop reboot, which came out, I want to say like about 15 years ago, perhaps longer even. I don't know, I'm a boomer. What can I say? I'm a nonk at this point, but it still feels new to me. Where they wanted to make the titular character Robocop super tactical, and they made him like have a black armor and be like super technologically advanced, as opposed to the older Robocop, which looked all clunky and, you know, you could still see the cables popping out of him and whatnot. And Games Workshop, since the birth of the Primaris Marines, since the release of the Primaris Marines, started adopting more this attitude, right? Like, no, the old models, they're weird. Not only the proportions, because I do like the newer proportions for the newer models, they're certainly better in my very humble opinion. I don't have too many firstborn Marines, let me just say that. I only have one kit of firstborn Marines because I wasn't collecting Warhammer back then. I was too broke. Again, I am Mexican, those things are not cheap over there, not at all. But anyways, however, since the release of the trailer and the miniature that got released on the Adepticon reveals for the new Intercessor, and how they're gonna start adopting or readopting rather integrating some of these older styles of armor, older sort of design choices, I thought that was a green flag for the most part on GW's part, of saying like, we understand, we are hearing, we listen to the customers, and you guys have complained for like 3 editions now that the helmets of the Primaris are not as cool as the Mark 7 helmet, as the scowling helmet of the classic obviously it's not the classic Marines, right? There's even older styles of helmets like the Vicky helmet, but still, you know, it's a callback to older, more old school Warhammer, right? So ever since the release of 10th edition with the Vanguard Veterans, I like the reintroduction of the Mark 7 pattern helmet, and I like that now they're selling intercessors with assault intercessors, just intercessors, sorry, with the same helmet, right, and the older style bolter, all that sort of thing. To me, that's a good sign that GW is listening, and they, like I used to, you don't have to look for third-party 3D printed pieces or very old kits just to give your newer models, your objectively better, at least in proportion wise and quality wise, Primaris models. You don't need to waste so much money and spend so much money just to make them look, just to give them a bit of the old school flair. I like to give them props when I feel like they do something right, but I also like to give them a fair bit of criticism when I feel like they could do better. Not out of any resentment towards the company. At the end of the day, some of the decisions that they take, starting by the prices if you ask me, they are heartbreaking sometimes, but I still owe them a bunch, because they are the stewards, or at least they should be the stewards, of a hobby that has helped me just enjoy life that much more, and different aspects of life and different moments in my life, right? So I do have some stern criticism. Now, this model right here, originally when I saw it, I looked at it. Let me just read real quickly to you what it says here. In the cinematic trailer for the new edition of Warhammer 40,000, we saw Blood Angel's chaplain leading a unit of glorious Vanguard veterans into the fray. These warriors descend from above like true angels of death to deliver the Emperor's vengeance. We've seen them on the tabletop before, but this is a fresh take on a classic kit, as dynamic as ever, but now equipped with the same powerful jump pack as the Assault Intercessors with jump packs. The golden helmet marks out this Blood Angel as a veteran. He's also wielding an impressive master-crafted weapon and a plasma pistol, and his armor is festooned with additional iconography and a Crux Terminatus to show the just to underline his status within the chapter. So, fair enough. There isn't really much more to say about the model, to be honest, other than that. This is basically a Primaris model. It's pretty much an Assault Intercessor with a couple more things added to him. And they discuss the paint job of the golden helmet, which, whatever. I love seeing marketing for Blood Angels, don't get me wrong. I love seeing my red and black and golden boys in the poster of these things. I think it's good for the company. It adds more variety to their marketing options. Not everyone is going to be into blue Space Marines, so I think that is a very good step in a good direction. That being said, I thought this model was okay, but I couldn't quite nail down. I was like, okay, it's certainly better than the Assault Intercessors that we currently have, right? Like, not the Assault Intercessors, but the ones with jump packs. But then I started noticing that there was a bit of backlash online, and people were comparing them to this. The old school Vanguard Veteran squad of Intercessors. And that's when I immediately realized, oh, that's exactly what is missing. Just the drip. The absolute and total commitment to drip and to flare and to just so many extra details, much more than they need to. And you compare that with the newer ones, and it's like such a sleek model. It sort of reminds me, again, another kind of weird comparison, the cars of the 60s, where they all look like overdeveloped, kind of almost futuristic in their design. They were sleek in their own way, they were elegant in their own way, but they lacked a bit of finesse because they had so much character, they had so much to say, and you don't give them more to say by taking stuff away from the design of the car. And you compare that to newer cars, and they're just basically basically making them smoother and sleeker, and that's taking away their flair and their personality. And the same thing is happening to these Marines here. So as I was saying, the proportions are certainly better on the newer ones, but just look again. I realize that we are only looking at one model of the entire squad, I suppose, that we're getting on the launch box set. But make no mistake, this same squad will be available on its own individual box set eventually, and it will have it might have more things to equip your models with. That's usually how GW does it. On the launch box set, you have less options, and when they release the individual squads and units, they will add more options, right? That was the case in the past edition, and likely the one before that, if I remember correctly. But just going back to these ones, just the armor, the design, it's so almost, I want to say, overcrowded with detail, with adornments, with varnish. I don't know how to explain it. It looks almost rococo in its design, which, by the way, would go so well for the Blood Angels, right? Look at all these extra details. Look at the olive branches. Look at the toes on the squad sergeant here, the veteran squad sergeant, or whatever this character is supposed to be. Look at the weapons, the text on the sword. There is nothing on the other sword. Honestly, it's supposed to be like a relic master crafted sword. I don't think it's a relic blade, but just a master crafted sword, and it looks very much like any other power sword that I have currently, because I have a bunch of power swords. But now look at this one, right? It says Imperialis, and it's a 200 sword. It immediately just has a lot more character to it. And look at the helmets, look at the difference. Basically, the only thing that this helmet has is it has a little cross with a skull on the forehead, and that's about it. Other than that, the only extra things that the model have has that I can tell. It's just a couple of purity seals, which isn't even that many or that much. Like usually models will have a couple purity seals for Marines. It's nothing crazy. Some pouches, which again all Primaris Marines will have. It does have a tabard, but you can barely see the tabard. I don't know if it's like hiding between his legs and it's hard to tell because of the angle, or just a very short tabard, which it looks kind of worse. It looks like a miniskirt if you ask me. And then it has this little like relic cross hanging from the belt. I forget what those are called, but again, most Primaris Marines you'll be able to like give them those little adornments, especially if you're playing like Crusade mode and so on, which I don't think it'll be a thing in this edition. And the Aquila on the armor is different. I do appreciate that from the general like assault jump pack Terminators, but you can also tell that the Aquila in the older armors was different. So everything from the design of the jump pack, look at the details, those little Aquilas that they put at the top of the jump packs, obviously the harness for the jump packs, which I thought the old school harness were amazing, but also not only that, but they still have the Crux Terminatus in the shoulder guard, which I think is cool. But look at the shoulder guards, right? Look at these wings here on this one. It has like its own Aquila. The other one is just a regular old shoulder guard. You may argue, okay, well that offers you more stuff to paint with, but realistically, it just takes away from the flair. Okay, this looks like a model that was made for those influencer painters, like those miniature painting content creators. Not so much so for just people who like to tell stories through their models, because don't get me wrong, I follow a bunch of those content creators. El Miniaturista, he's the best one in my opinion, and I love their content. But how often are they actually, I guess El Miniaturista in particular, he is telling stories through his characters. But when you're not a content creator, you're just doing this for the love of the narrative, for the love of the art of creating your own miniature, for your own creativity, just to make something that you will look at proudly, that you will put in your room or whatever, and just whenever you find it, you will look at it with pride. Well, then it is, in that case, it's nice to have a character that has like just so much stuff on it, right? Look at the medieval knights, which the Space Marines take so much inspiration from. The coolest knights, especially in the latter periods where the armors stopped being so practical and they became more ceremonial. The coolest knights had the more drip, the most drip, the most flair. They had more stuff on their armor. It wasn't as practical. Now the thing about Warhammer is that in certain specific scenarios in the lore, and also in real life, to be honest, psychological effect of armor and weapons and adornments on armor and weapons is a real thing. Now I won't get into the whole nerdy explanation of why seeing like a warrior across the battlefield with a bunch of signs of status and things that make him stand out in the battlefield has such a powerful psychological effect on the enemy combatants. It is also not the best tactical decision, but that in itself is kind of a power move, right? Like, it's like saying, see, I don't care if you see me, I don't care if you can spot me across the battlefield, because I'm that good of a warrior, or I'm that important, or I'm that confident. Now, the in-lore reason of, because why that sometimes, not always, depends kind of who they're fighting with, why that works with Space Marines is not only the psychological effect that it has in themselves, because they have a very strong culture around their icons and their beliefs. Some chapters are more religious or spiritual than others, and different chapters have different cultures, and that is very interesting. But there is also this weird thing, I'm not talking full in the lore here, there is also this weird thing that happens with in Warhammer, that there is a lot of unexplained rules of laws in the universe, specifically regarding the miracles of the Emperor. Now, similar to how orcs will receive an effect based on the color that they paint their armor in, and they think that it is the color, but no, actually it is like the power, the psychic power of all the orcs focusing or having a collective understanding of the effect of something, kind of creating like an egregore of what that effect will be, and kind of like they make a self-fulfilling prophecy. So they're psychically projecting all of that into their belief, and that has an effect. The same thing happens with the humans in Warhammer, right? That is why, I mean, look at this chainsword. How cool is this chainsword? Look at all the detail and all the risky design options there. I can only imagine that when this came out, people were like, oh, this is so cool. I would like to imagine. We Warhammer fans do like to complain, and hobby fans in general. But anyways, going back to faith and believe. Something similar happens to the Tau, for example. Not the Tau themselves, but the creatures that the Tau surround themselves with, that the Tau integrate into their creed of the greater good. They eventually start creating this egregore, this projection of the greater good as a deity, right? And the Tau are very disconcerted by this. So whatever laws the Warhammer universe operates under, it is very evident that collective faith, collective belief will psychically project an image into the warp or into reality, or will affect in some way, positive or negative, how actually reality operates. Hence, I mean, we can only assume, because a lot of this is kept a mystery to us, which I love, how there are miracles that are, people think it's the Emperor, right, granting them miracles, but we don't know if it's the Emperor. Maybe it's the people's collective beliefs. So that is why such icons, such relics, all this iconography has so much power in Space Marines. That is one of the many reasons. The other thing is, it's just cool. I mean, look at this guy. He has like a shield on his shield. Like, that is so awesome. This guy has an Aquila on his shoulder pad. This guy has a Crux Terminatus on his shoulder pad with some spiky studs, and then a Crux Terminatus in his power claw. Like, that's just metal. I don't know how else to say it. But also, it's not terribly overcrowded. It's kind of elegant in a way, and I can only imagine how cool it will look with the current technology that GW has, the current ability to create nicer, more detailed, smoother models with better proportions. How much cooler this would have looked if they had been braver. Sorry, voice crack. If they had been braver about their design choices. So I guess I could talk a lot more about this. I say this kind of like I am a bit disappointed, because I thought that the reveal trailer for the 11th edition was a banger. I think, as I explained earlier, that the choice to go back to older marks of armor and to start reintegrating them with the Primaris proportions and the Primaris Marines, I thought that was a great decision to make. Just like in 10th edition, I thought that the release of characters who are canonically still Firstborn Marines, like Limaris for the Blood Angels precisely, I thought it was a ballsy decision, and I thought it was amazing. And the Firstborn Marines look so cool with the newer technology, with the newer models design, I believe. So I will say, a bit disappointed to see my Vanguard Veteran, the new Vanguard Veteran models like this. Again, I love seeing the Blood Angels being the poster boys for once, again after so long. But I think it is very cool. But I can only say that I wish they had done better, right? Again, not every Marine of every chapter has to be overcrowded like this. Different chapters have different cultures, and different Marines will tell different stories. I don't care too much about like the standard units, that is your regular assault intercessors, your regular intercessors, your regular jump pack intercessors, not having so many adornments, so long as you have the option to adorn them more, right? Because maybe you have a chapter that is indeed more tactical, like the Raptors, for example, or the Raven Guard, or maybe there's your own chapter, your own homebrewed chapter. But I would have liked to have the option to make something as cool, maybe half as cool as these older Marines. I won't even get into how many beats the older kits used to have, because again, till this day, if you get your hands on one of these older kits and models, you'll have beats. You'll have beats for years. I literally have not used all my beats from my older Space Marine models. But anyways, that's not half of what I have to say for today, but I don't want to make this video unwatchable as usual. So now I pass the question on to you. How do you feel about the new Vanguard Veterans? Are you gonna start collecting them? I seriously, I'm like trying to convince myself. I'm also letting GW convince me to buy this box set. At this point, I don't know if I will. I might as well just wait and like the models that I like and I don't like. I guess we'll wait and see, right? So just tell me how you feel about it, whether they're selling you on it. I kind of wanted to buy it just to support the good decisions, but I guess I'll have to wait to see the price as well, because in this economy, it's not gonna be easy, especially with all the price rises that they keep pushing, right? So yeah, just let me know in the comments down below how you feel about it. And with that being said, thanks for coming, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to the channel, like the video and subscribe to the channel if you would like to see more content like this, or you would like to support it. If you like this video, please send it to a friend. If you hated it, send it to an enemy. And with that being said, ad astra, and remember, there are no female custodies.